you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche. And after 22 years, Raymond Moore
The sickest NHL podcast. It's gonna be sick.
And welcome to another edition of the Eye Test here on the Sick Podcast Network. Pierre back in his home studio. I'm back in mine after a fun night over at TD Garden and doing the podcast there before the Bruins beat the Montreal Canadiens 6-4 in a rather interesting game that we'll get to in a bit. But we are here now on Campus Friday, so our shift in about 14 minutes, we'll shift to college hockey as we welcome on the commissioner of the ECAC, Doug Christiansen. Really honored to have Doug on. ECAC, a wonderful hockey conference in college hockey. He will be calling in live, Pierre, from your alma mater your coaching alma mater in St. Lawrence. And he's at the women's game right now, so we'll be talking to him shortly from there. But Pierre, let's go back to that game last night, the Bruins Canadiens, and a couple observations that we had. One, I would say, is that, what I took away from that game, Pierre, and, I've seen the media painted a different way, both sides, Boston and Montreal, as if, it was always in the bag. It was always a win for the Bruins in that game. And it was, it's like no surprise that they won. That's not the game I saw. There were times in that game, and obviously specifically when they cut it to 5-4 late, that I saw Montreal Canadiens with a window to win that game. I mean, if it was there for the taking, and I don't think that, a lot of people heading into that game, and apparently don't want a minute now, would have thought that. But that tells me two things about the Montreal Canadiens right now. They weren't able to get through that window and take that game. So they're not quite there yet, but they're getting there. And the reason they're not quite there yet, in my eyes right now, and I know you're going to agree with me right now, is maybe not exactly all the players. I think that there needs to be some different decisions going forward with the roster right now.
Yeah, we agree on that. They need better goaltending. That wasn't good enough.
Oh, yeah.
That wasn't good enough.
That was one of the worst games I've seen Caden Primo play in a long time.
That wasn't good enough for Caden. And he got lucky, too, because there was a phantom goalie interference call.
Mm-hmm.
That was
on Hampus Lindholm?
Yes.
Yep.
So, look, Canes, there was a back-to-back. It's early in the year. Things happen. Right. They've got to start making better decisions in terms of matchups. That was kind of a haphazard kind of a matchup game. Their face-off play in the first period was despicable. It wasn't bad. It was despicable. They were out faced off 20-9. It wasn't even close. Dvorak, who's on that team basically because the face-off guy got wiped out. He got wiped right out in the first period. So there's a lot that wasn't good on that front. But I would cede you your point, Jimmy, and I agree with you. Montreal was very much in that game. They were very much in that game in spite of the bad face-off play, in spite of the questionable decision-making with player personnel, and in spite of haphazard goaltending. They were still in that game. Now, on the Bruins side of things, there was some good news, too. Johnny Beecher, Mark Kastelik really played well, and Cole Koepke was very good. So that's got to excite the Bruins because those are big guys. Those are guys that can skate, and those are guys that can hit you. And Koepke is a way undervalued. He's a kid from Minnesota Duluth, way undervalued skill player. And I said it to Jimmy last night, so I'll tell our listeners. He was drafted by Tampa. He was a 6th-round pick of Tampa in 2018, I think, if I remember, right around 2018, 2019. Mm-hmm. And they brought him in, and I watched him play. I watched him play in Syracuse, which is where their farm team is. And I thought he had a chance to play. And I don't know what happened there. But it's not exactly like Tampa's overrun with tons of prospects now because they've moved a lot of them to keep their team competitive. So I don't know what happened there, but that's really good scouting by the Brewers. Now, he's a kid. I think he's from Hermantown, if I remember correctly, up north. And Jamie Langenbrunner works for Donnie Sweeney. And I'm going to say between Tufte, Riley Tufte, who's there now, Minnesota kid, and Cole Koepke, Minnesota kid, I'm going to say that Jamie Langenbrunner probably played a pretty significant role in both those guys ending up in Boston. And you know what? They're both playing really well right now. Both of them are.
Yeah, for sure. And, you bring up that fourth line, big, bruising, tenacious, right? And, Pierre, I know you, like me, were very, very attentive to make sure that the the famous Merlot line back in the day for the Bruins in their little run from about 2010 to 2014 when they went to 2 Stanley Cup Finals, won a President's Trophy, won the Stanley Cup in 2011 of Sean Thornton, Gregory Campbell, and now why am I having Daniel Pye? Daniel Pye. And you need lines like that. I bet if we went down and we did a study of all the Cup winners, let's just go back to when the salary cap was instituted. You're going to see a lot of them had this identity on their fourth line, and the rest of the team fed off it. It eased things up, so to speak, on your big scoring guys, and the guys that need that rest, need to know that guys behind them can pick up some extra time and also play physical. And they seem to have it. It's one game, but they looked really good. And I think, you told me about Kastelik, Pierre, and what a great team guy he is. Mm. And I listened to him on the ride home last night getting interviewed, and just the way he speaks, very well spoken, all about the team, didn't want to take any credit despite the fact he had 2 goals. It was team first through the whole conversation. And I think Bruins fans are going to fall in love with this guy pretty quick.
We spent a lot of time with him when he was coming up in Ottawa. Spent a lot of time, obviously, in Belleville with him. A lot of time. First time that team made the playoffs, I think, in 4 or 5 years. He was a big part of it. Very well coached team by Troy Mann. And I would just say that Mark was a big part of that. He's a tremendous team person. And the fact that he's had an opportunity in the NHL in Ottawa and now looks full-time in Boston, I couldn't be happier for him. Again, you work with these players and you spend time, and you see what they do to make it. And this guy did a lot to make it. So hats off to him. Jimmy, I just want to play up this point because Scotty brought it up and, talk about the importance of depth players. That's one trend that he's really following to start the year. So we've talked about the Bruins fourth line. I'm watching New Jersey and Toronto last night. Stevie Lorentz, David Kampf, Bobby McMahon. Lorentz was a 7th-round pick at Carolina. Kampf was never drafted out of the Czech Republic. McMahon was never drafted out of Colgate University. They don't win that game without those guys, okay? That's Toronto. You could look at the New York Rangers the other night, 6-0 win in Pittsburgh. Will Cooley, Philip Hedl, Capo Caco, okay? They don't win. The Rangers don't blow Pittsburgh out without those guys. Winnipeg, they go into Edmonton, they win 6-0. Niederreiter, Lowry, Appleton. So Scotty was right on. He nailed it before the season even started. So all those pundits out there that start writing stuff after the fact, I'm telling you before the fact. We have people on the show that actually tell you before it happens. Scotty's the importance of depth players has never been more pronounced as it is right now. Never.
I agree. And I know we don't have much time, so I don't want you to answer this now, but it's something I want you to maybe keep in mind, and we'll get back to it Monday, Pierre, because I've always found it fascinating. You talk about a great job by the Bruins scouting department going out and finding a guy like Koepke. And I wonder, Pierre, do teams, do they designate scouts to really scour the AHL and other leagues for guys that maybe slip through the cracks and you find him and then you kind of study his progress and, this guy could really fit with what we're trying to do here. And just because it's not working for him there, or maybe it didn't even work the team before there, is that something that scouts keep in the back of their mind to look for, like a diamond in the rough, so to speak?
100%. So Lorentz played in the East Coast Hockey League after having a pretty good career in the Ontario Hockey League with Peterborough. When I was in my old job before I joined you, I was really pushing hard to get him to Ottawa. There you go. I knew he was a depth guy. I knew he was a big guy. I knew he could skate. I knew he could defend. I knew he was coachable. And so, look, every team has guys that watch the American League. Every team has maybe one that spends a little bit more time in the East Coast Hockey League. Every team has guys scurrying all over Europe trying to find free agents. So, yes, the answer is yes. Now, it's not just one guy. There's different people. And usually there's a cross-checker that'll go and watch. I'll give you an example. Marshall Rafai is a kid Toronto signed. We offered him in Ottawa. He played at Harvard. He was playing in the 4 or 5 position. Sometimes he was number 6 on defense. We saw him play, and we were convinced. I was convinced, and so were some of our other people in the front office, that we should sign him. We called his agent, Matt Cater, and said, okay, thanks for your offer. We're taking other offers in. And Toronto made a better offer. That's fine. We didn't have the money that they had.
Yep.
So they made a better offer, especially on a signing bonus. And you know what? Look at what's happened. It's worked out unbelievable for Toronto. It's worked out great for the kid.
Yep.
So
Good
the
stuff.
answer is yes, you watch for those types of players.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd love to like just do a study of players like that who just kept slipping through. And then one time somebody just caught them. The one off the top of my head that comes to my mind the most is Tim Thomas.
Yeah, well, he was drafted, though, to be fair.
He was
drafted by Quebec. He was a 12th round pick by Quebec. But, you know, I coached games against him when he was down in Birmingham, Alabama.
Yep.
I did.
And think of all the time he spent in Europe, too.
But, yeah, so I'm just telling you, he worked his tail off to get there. I was reading it, I think it was yesterday or today. I think there are 82 players in the league, in the NHL, 82.
Right now?
Out of about 725 that were never drafted.
Okay.
That's pretty substantial.
Yeah.
You know,
Was it always that way when you were younger?
Teams, so it's a little more than 2 per team.
Right.
Pretty substantial, Jimmy.
Yeah.
So
hey, there's some good scouting going on.
And here's what I would tell you too. And again, this is nobody's fault. It's nobody's fault because of COVID. The 2020 draft should have been right up there with the 03 draft, which is the best draft ever. And what fouled up the 2020 draft was COVID. So a lot of the North American kids weren't playing, and they weren't doing analytics on those kids. The European kids, especially the Swedes and the Finns, and you can go look it up, from the 4th round to the 7th round, they took a plethora of European kids.
Yep.
And a lot of them were undersized.
Right.
And the reason why they took them, they were playing and they had analytic numbers.
And video, and that's it, right?
Yeah, so that's what it hurt a lot. So I think what you're going to see, and that's why you see a lot of these college or these pro teams now, they're sending guys to watch college free agents because there are a lot of college free agents from that class. So they're going to be 21, 22, 23 now. Mm-hmm. And that's going to be, there's going to be a wave of them next summer, next fall, spring actually coming up, where people are going to say, where'd that guy come from? How could he not have? Well, this is what happened. I'm trying to explain it to you in advance. So when you read it in 4 months, it's somebody that plagiarized from the show. And I'm getting tired of that, by the way, too.
Ditto on that. Back one more thing on that Canadiens game, Pierre. And everyone who follows you knows you're a big fan of Lane Hudson. But, man, did he come as advertised in that game. You know, he had a couple mistakes, just like any rookie's going to have. But I'm watching him. You know, and it's everything you've been telling me about to pay attention. And, you know, it's great when I'm sitting next to you in the press box and you're pointing these little things out to me, but just the way he can control the play, the way his instinct and his puck sense compensates for his size. That was what struck me the most throughout that game, because I remember, if you remember, I went over in the first intermission, and I spoke to a scout. And I'm not going to name who it is, not fair to him, but I spoke to a scout and he was impressed. But he says, yeah, but Jimmy, the size, I mean, how is he going to hold up? And I said, look at the way he compensates with his puck sense and the way he reads things. So he knows, okay, I'm going to get pummeled if I'm there in a few seconds. So I'm going here. And he senses it. And it was just, that's the first time I've seen him in person, Pierre. I've seen plenty of him on TV, but that is the first time I've seen him in person. And it was a pleasure to watch that young man play last night.
He's worth the price of admission for sure. You know, I think about it now. You know, we have Adam Fox in the league. You got Quinn Hughes in the league. I remember Brian Rafalski winning Stanley Cups in New Jersey and Detroit. Another guy never drafted out of Wisconsin, has to go overseas and play. And, you know, Billy Zito was his agent. Billy Zito's the guy that got him his opportunity. But here's the good one for you. I would just say this. There are more small guys like that coming, and one of them's his brother, Cole, who's at PU right now. And I've seen him a lot, and I saw him live last Saturday. He's not as good yet as Lane, but he's good. He's really good, and he's
similar style too.
Drafted by Washington. And I think he did well in his camp this summer. I don't think he hit it out of the park, but it's a big adjustment too for a kid going in there as an 18-year-old. But I'm watching him now. Oh, he's good. He's going to be good. Let's get to our next guest because he's going to be really good. Jimmy, I'll just tell you this. He's really well spoken, highly cerebral, and I can't believe that he played hockey for as long as he did to have his synapses all connected the way they are.
Well, let's bring that intelligent man on right now. Joining us here on the eye test is the commissioner of the ECAC, Doug Christiansen. We got him there. He's only going to be by audio because of the connection they have there.
Yeah.
Doug, can you hear us? Doug?
He's trying. He's efforting.
Yeah, he's trying because he's in the arena. Doug, can you hear us okay, my friend?
Oh, there he is.
There he is. He's fast, too.
He's an old Appleton arena.
Doug, how we doing? Shane, you know what? Oh, Shane, loop him back. Yeah, work on that if you can.
So
I'm just going to Shane the number 2 quick, Pierre, while we talk.
Why don't you do his background, and then I'm pretty familiar with it, but just for our listeners and our viewers out there, tell them Doug played for a long time.
He did. And look, one thing that we love about it is he has connections to where Pierre and I will be at the end of November, and that is Belfast for the Friendship 4. He's very connected to that tournament, and he actually played in the same league, the EIHL, for the Edinburgh Capitals out of Scotland. And at a point, for 2 seasons there, Pierre, as I was just texting you before we came on.
Yeah, right outside Appleton Arena.
And there he is.
I didn't have great signal inside, so I'm trying to get my AirPods going here, so bear with me here. I had to come
No
outside.
worries, my friend.
We're good. We're good.
Are we live or are we?
Oh, yeah, we're live.
We are live.
Okay.
We're live.
Okay.
Don't worry about Hey, at least it's a beautiful day to go out into, huh?
Gorgeous day. There's people tailgating outside.
Unreal.
You just make sure you get to Sergi's and have a big pizza on me. You tell Frank I sent you.
I will do that, Pierre. Be careful what you wish for.
I'm telling you.
You
Tell Frank I sent you. It's good.
Yep. Good stuff, Doug. Well, you are in St. Lawrence. What's the game you're at right now, Doug?
So right now is the St. Lawrence women against Mercyhurst. It's 1-0 entering the third, a top 15 matchup. And then tonight is Notre Dame against St. Lawrence. Obviously, should be a rocking atmosphere tonight. And so far, it's been a really nice crowd. And I'm looking at people tailgating right there.
Doug, isn't it one of the most amazing arenas in your league? I just think Appleton is phenomenal.
It's awesome. I mean, I was 0 for 8 here. So as a player, I don't have the best memories. But when it gets going, it's really loud. The fans are into it. But I think the one part about it that a lot of our rinks have, it just has such tremendous character. I mean, you look at the seats, there's not a building like it in all of college hockey. And that's the part that makes it really special. And I'm sure it'll make it a really fun atmosphere tonight.
Let's stick within women's hockey right now, Doug, because the ECAC, I think, and Pierre shares this opinion with me, has really gone to the forefront of women's teams. You've got some of the best teams in the country in your conference there, and it's really grown and helped grow the game in general. How much pride do you take from that you guys are really promoting women's hockey?
Take a ton. I mean, we've got 7 of the top 15 teams in the country. We had 4 of the first round picks of the 6 first round picks in the PWHL draft. So obviously on an individual level, we have a Patty Kazmaier winner from last year, and she wasn't even one of the 4 picks. So it shows the depth not only of teams, but also of individuals in our league. So for us as a league, it's fantastic. We had 2 teams in the Final Four, 4 in the tournament, and probably a bunch of others that feel as though they probably should have been in it last year. So individually, collectively, night in, night out, it's tough. It's exactly what you want it to be. It's what prepares you to be a pro. And that's something that while the women are having an outstanding experience and getting a great education, it's preparing them for their next step in their career.
And, it also have Jimmy and Doug knows this. They got phenomenal coaches. And if you look at it, one of their top coaches just left to go to the PWHL, and Greg Fargo, he's replaced by Stefan DeCoste. But if you look at the coaches, and I'll defer to the commissioner on this, it's a murderer's row when you look at it nationally. How many top-end coaches are in the ECAC, the commissioner?
One of the things that I was really impressed with was RPI. I went and saw an exhibition game, and they were running all their face-off, offensive zone face-off plays. And, you think about exhibition in the NHL, you think about exhibition across the board, but that shows you the level of preparation that a team needs in order to compete. It shows you the high level of coaching that goes throughout our league. And it's something that for me, having been on the coaching side, it's fun for me to see those subtle nuances, whether it's a face-off play or an adjustment on the power play, that obviously shows a ton of strength of our league. And obviously for me, it's fun to kind of watch and see how it plays out.
How much is having a pro league now, in a pro league that really is off to a great start, how much has that affected the morale, I guess would be the word, amongst college women's hockey players?
Well, I think it's one of those things where it really shows in terms of the hopes and expectations of what the next step can look like. And I think that's important. But I would say, though, that the competitive nature of our league has been often tied to Olympians and the international game that Pierre knows so well. So now it's kind of two-pronged. It's the fact that there's the Olympic international side, but it's also the domestic pro side. And you see the growth of pro sports, women's pro sports. You look at the growth of the WNBA and the impact that a star player can have. It's really impressive, and it's something that is growing, and we're right at the forefront of that on the hockey side.
I think one of the brilliant things that Commissioner has done is they have these outreach games in the mornings where school kids will come in. And Doug, why don't you take us through that? I think it's a phenomenal thing. The first one I was at was the St. Lawrence at Harvard game. It was at 10:30 in the morning, Jimmy, at Harvard. It was sold out. It was awesome. Unbelievable. So, Doug, why don't you take us through that?
Theirs was so successful last year at Clarkson. They're going to make it an annual tradition. They're just going to go back and forth up and down the road. And I think that that's something for us as a league where what they do is they'll have a game in the morning, and a lot of the schools and a lot of the public school districts will have opportunities for a field trip. And that could be to a museum. It could be to anything. But a lot of times it might be tied to health or something that they're doing in school. And it gives them an exposure to something totally different. Boys, girls, they come to the game, and it's during the day. And I mean, let's be honest, who doesn't love a field trip? And then you've got the opportunity when you're in school, everybody loved a field trip day. And so you go and you get this great opportunity to see really great hockey. And last year's game between Clarkson and St. Lawrence is not only sold out, but it was a fantastic game too. And I'm sure that that's going to be replicated in a number of different places, but I'm sure it'll be really good again here. I believe it's in a month.
That's great stuff. Well, I want to switch gears here a bit because Pierre and I are really excited. I don't know if you heard, we are going over to Belfast for the Friendship 4. Doug, we can't wait. Really looking forward to it. We're going to go to Dublin. We're going to go to Kildare and then on up to Belfast. And I know you have ties from over there from playing in that league, and you have a sense of how hockey has grown there. So if you just, sort of elaborate on that for our listeners and viewers.
Certainly. Well, first of all, I coached the Belfast Giants for 3 years. There's a really great article by Michael Farber about the importance of the Belfast Giants. And he made the argument that it's the most important hockey team in the world. And it was really brought together because of the Good Friday Agreement, bringing Catholics and Protestants together. And the entire ethos of the team was about something that was bigger than the game. Well, obviously, they've done a fantastic job in terms of really moving past all of the troubled history that they've had in Northern Ireland and in Ireland. And now this team is not only successful off the ice, but it's one of the best clubs in Europe. The fan base is absolutely fantastic, and they love hockey. And I think the one thing that's really grown is the knowledge of the game, that they're becoming far more nuanced fans. Before everybody loved hits and fights and goals, but now they appreciate the penalty kill, clearing the puck down the ice. They appreciate the blocking a shot. They appreciate those other things. And I'll say when I coached there, they appreciated that the fights and all the fun things that were going on. But that's evolved, and I think that that's something that will A, lead to more fans, but B, hopefully more players, so that domestic players will not only go on and play for the Belfast Giants, but will go on and move on. I know Owen Nolan is from Belfast originally, but like somebody who actually grows up and is trained there and winds up, progressing to the National Hockey League. I think that that's the next step for them. You'll love it. The people are amazing. Really, really special place.
It's interesting you talk about the history and the Good Friday agreements and everything else, because you're spot on. And Michael Farber is a legendary writer, for those that don't know, from Sports Illustrated. He's a member of the Hockey Hall of Fame. He's just an amazingly gifted writer. But I'm looking at Harvard going to represent the ECAC this year on the men's side. And then in 2026, Doug, you're going to have Quinnipiac women and Harvard women going over as well. So this isn't just for the guys now, it's for the women as well.
100%. And I went over last year. I saw Princeton play against Providence. Sarah Fillier winds up going number 1 overall in the PWHL draft. And, you know, she was the best player on the ice. She put on a show for the home fans. And so it's something that, again, we talked about the growth of women's sports. It's not just here, but we're extending women's sports elsewhere in the world. And I think that that's something that if you're a little girl in Belfast, you know, 10 years ago, you weren't thinking about playing hockey. Well, now you're thinking about playing hockey. You're thinking about a uniform that you can put on and you can see a tangible line from A to B. And there's some things that are just bigger than the game. And it's about growing in. And I think that's something that's really special about what that tournament is, both for men and women.
Doug, switching back to men's hockey and college hockey here in North America, there's been a lot of changes, as you know, in the past couple of years, whether it's with the portals and now with the, you know, seemingly inevitable junior players being able to come to college hockey. What's been your take on all this change, and how are you, as a commissioner of a great conference such as the ECAC, adapting to it?
Well, it's something for us, just like anybody else. You have to adapt. You have to grow and adapt. And for us, obviously, there's legislation that needs to be taken care of. And so whether that happens or doesn't happen, that's outside of it. But one thing that I am confident of is that, our league is going to do an outstanding job, because education and the experiences that our league have resonate with everybody. You know, when you're a parent, it doesn't matter. You sit there, you look at your kid, boy, girl, American, Canadian, whatever, and you sit there and say, you know what's going to help their future? Them getting an outstanding education and having a great 4 years and playing Division I college hockey. All 12 of our schools have that. And so no matter who you are, whether you're playing in major junior, whether you're playing the BCHL, whether you're playing in Europe, those things hold true. And that's why I think our league is going to do really, really well, because now there's an opportunity for us to continue to grow our brand to a different spot. There's obviously some hoops and hurdles that have to go there, and whatever that winds up being, we'll make sure that we're as strong as we possibly can be within the rules and the framework that are there. But we'll grow and adapt if we need to. But in the meantime, we're really pleased with where we are.
I'm really pleased that I don't have to go to Liner Rink all the time and have to play there and coach there. Can you just tell our listeners and viewers, Commissioner, what it's Friday night and Saturday night at Liner Rink in Ithaca, New York is like?
It's loud, it's intimidating, it's intense, they're physical, they get on the forecheck. They obviously have had great teams recently. They got a great team again this year. It's one of the best fan bases in hockey, not just college hockey. And they're really knowledgeable fans too. And I think that that's just like so many of the other places. I mean, I just want to go here, like the people are tailgating already for a game at 7:00 tonight. It's 4:30 for the people who aren't watching. So it's these atmospheres that happen in our league that I just don't think people get enough credit for, or our league gets enough credit for. And Line is obviously certainly one of them.
I agree.
That's great. You know, the more I learn, just getting to know Pierre better and better, just he raves about just upstate New York and the hockey culture there. And you know, I don't think around our country that people understand how strong it is and how many proud hockey communities there are there. And obviously you see that translate into your conference.
No question. I mean, nobody would sit there and say that Islander fans, Ranger fans, and Sabre fans aren't passionate. Devil fans too. Well, if you look at the geography of that doesn't service upstate New York.
Right.
What serves upstate New York are our schools. And obviously the American League's done a nice job here, but there's so many different little hockey towns throughout. You might have heard of one, Lake Placid. You know, and one of the things that I love about Lake Placid is like a small tangent is when you walk down the street in most American cities, they got NBA on, they've got NFL on, they've got whatever else on their sports bars. Every single bar, every single restaurant in Lake Placid has the hockey game on, whoever's playing. And it's types of fans that are throughout our league. And it's really fun. They're passionate, they're knowledgeable. And a lot of the character, like we talked about with some of the buildings in our league, they fill and it makes for a really fun place to play.
Jimmy, one of the real great gifts, and I want to be transparent with our viewers and listeners, is that the commissioner asked me to join up with the ECAC last year to broadcast the women's and the men's. And, you know, I coached in it, and I watched my son Colgate team win it. And it was really an emotional weekend for me. And I got to tell you, doing the women's tournament at Colgate last year and then the men's in Lake Placid, I would endorse that for anybody. If you're a hockey person, you go to the ECAC tournament in Lake Placid, Commissioner is right on the mark there. That is an amazing experience, and everybody should have an opportunity to experience it. But here's what I want to tell you, Jimmy, and this is really important, just to touch on what Doug said. The passion level for hockey in that part of New York State, you go from Ithaca to Watertown, New York, and then you go due east to Canton and then into Potsdam where Clarkson is, and then you come down and you go to RPI in Troy, go to Schenectady where Union is. It's amazing. And I think, Doug, you would agree. It's unbelievable. It's one of the most untapped parts of the United States for hockey.
I totally agree. And I think that that's one of the things for us as a league. We're trying to continue to grow and develop because it is something for us that, you know, not enough people know. But doing shows like this, having conversations about our league, and even Pierre, you talking about it as often as you do, it resonates. And hopefully it's something one of your listeners says, you know what, I've always wanted to go to Lake Placid. Now I've got another reason to go. And it's a really, really fun thing that our league does. And I think it's something that hopefully we continue long into the future.
Jimmy, I'm so pumped up. The commissioner and I have talked about a lot of different projects to try to grow the league. And we're going to do it on the women's side and the men's side. And I just can't wait to get going. And I'm so grateful to Doug for doing this because you know what hockey means to me. It's everything I got in my life is because of hockey. And the commissioner's done an amazing job with the league.
I appreciate your patience. No, honestly, Pierre, thanks so much. I appreciate you having me on, and it's very fitting to have you. I know you might have some pretty good memories building.
I wish I was there with you.
I wanted to make sure I had a good one for you, but you know, as I said, you see the fans outside tailgating at 4:30 for a 7 o'clock start. You don't have to take my word for it. You can just look at it. And I think that's the kind of thing that when the Notre Dame bus rolls in, they're going to see people outside in a building that's going to be really fun for everybody to watch a great game of hockey. And obviously there's a great game of hockey going on right now behind me.
Doug, and want to tell you too, you know, the Belfast experience will not be the first road experience for us. Pierre and I have been talking about it a lot. We're going to make it happen. We're going to get out and do some on-campus Fridays live on site before games. So we will make an ECAC or maybe multiple ECAC schools on that tour.
Hey, Jimmy, you got to tell the commissioner where we're doing the podcast from when we're over in Dublin.
Oh, that's right. The Heart Bar. Are you familiar?
He knows it. He's got to see it.
I might have heard of it. just from other people, of course, right?
Yes.
No, I listen, before you go, you got to call me. I got to point you in the right direction. I know the people there in Belfast will take care of you. But
that'd be great.
I spent 3 of the best years of my life there. I met my wife there. I got married there. It's a special place.
Oh, wow.
It's near and dear to my heart. So you'll have a really, really fantastic time. And hopefully I can make sure that you find some really good memories too.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Go back and enjoy the game.
I will. Thanks for bearing with the signal. It was a little bit.
It was fine.
But I'm glad it worked out.
All right. Have a good one.
I'll talk to you this weekend. Thank you.
That's Doug Christiansen, the commissioner of the ECAC. Join us here.
I'm telling you,
I like him a lot here.
He's growing this thing huge. And it's not everybody, oh, he's just doing the guys. No. Yep. I work with him a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And
you're going to be doing more games, right, this year?
Yeah, but I committed to doing it. It's going to start happening probably next week where I'll be doing a big thing for them.
Okay.
Going forward weekly. And it's going to be about women and men. It's not just about the men. And, you know, I told last year, Doug and I were visiting, believe it or not, we were at a Cornell Colgate game at Lina. And I said, here's what I'm looking at. I said, you got teams on the women's side that are knocking down the door. And maybe Ohio State and maybe Wisconsin and maybe Minnesota are ahead of them. And that's it. And this is a huge brand that you can build. He goes, Pierre, we're on it. And that's when he said to me, would you broadcast the women's tournament for us? And I said, Commissioner, are you serious? He goes, 100%. I go, I'll shake your hand right now. I don't need a contract. I'll do it. He says, I didn't even give you a price. I said, don't worry about it. I want to do it because I just wanted, I think for that league in particular. He talked about the academics. Look at all the Ivies. I mean, come on, it's crazy. The academic integrity of that league is insane.
Yep.
So I said, if you can grow the women's brand there, there's going to be a residual spinoff for the men as well. And you're going to get more opportunity on TV, and you're going to get more opportunity with sponsorships, and it's going to grow your league. And so I couldn't wait to do it. And I've already committed to do the women's tournament this year, and I've committed to do the men's tournament. The only caveat to me doing the men is there's a little school in Boston that I might have to go watch if they go further. And so I can't commit for the whole weekend. That's my only, but all the other stuff, I'm all in for.
I look forward to it, man. It's great. And as always, you're a great pioneer of the game and promoting it, Pierre. We appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to getting up there. I mean, every time we have a guest on from the ECAC and they talk about the rinks and the crowd and the atmosphere, I'm like, how have I not been in any of these rinks?
You know what I think we're going to do, Jimmy? I think what we're going to do is we're going to set it up so we do the podcast one night or 2 days. So Thursday, Friday from Lake Placid. And then we come down because we want to be fair, and we do hockey on Saturday.
Okay.
I think that, I've been thinking about it a lot. And the week before is the women's, and they don't do theirs away. They do it at the top seeded city. So it could be Clarkson, it could be St. Lawrence, it could be Colgate, It could be Yale. We don't know. It could be a bunch. It could be Cornell with Dougie Darrow down there. And by the way, the young lady that won the Patty Kazmaier that he was alluding to, Izzy Daniel, she's an amazing player.
You told me about it before. I remember. Yeah,
Izzy's really good. She's a Minnesota girl, and she came east, and she went to Cornell, and I watched her play probably 10 games last year, and I was like, "Whoa, this young lady is really good." So I know we're on campus Friday. I know people like the NHL, but I'm telling you, if you get a chance to go to any of these places to go watch a game, it's worth it.
Yep.
I'll give you an example. My brother's taking his son up to a youth hockey tournament up in Utica, New York this weekend. And he said, we're going to go see the Utica Devils farm team play tomorrow. I said, great. You know what you should do tonight? He goes, no, what? I said, go to Colgate and watch them play Sacred Heart. You'll be blown away. The building is amazing at Colgate. Like, it's an NHL building in this small little town, at this hamlet of Hamilton, New York, which is beautiful. And you go there and you see the passion of the fans and the energy of the team. It's awesome.
Oh, that's great.
Awesome. So
imagine too in the fall too. I mean, the scenery, like the full.
I know I'm rambling, but I'm so passionate about what college hockey is, and I'm telling you, Jimmy, I know major junior dominating for a long time, but we're all going to have to get in the ship together here, because there's going to be a meeting of the minds here. They're all coming together. Yep. It's going to happen, and I want to say I wish it happened sooner.
Me too. But when I asked him about that, Pierre, I loved his answer. I'm sure he's had some when all this first came about. I'm sure he's had some issues, and he's weighed the pros and cons.
We've had some good. Can I just say this to cut you off? He and I have had some really good meetings about this, because I think there was some hesitancy from some of their constituents, coaches.
Yes.
And I said, you know what? No need to be afraid. And I'm not going to tell you what I said to him, but because it was a private conversation. But we did have a discussion. And you know what? When it was all said and done, he listened. And he said, oh.
But I saw it in him, Pierre, in his answer when he said, look, that's just better for us. It just helps grow the game. It helps grow this college hockey. We should take it. He didn't say these words, but what I took from him, the impression I got was like, hey, instead of trying to fight this, we should take it as a compliment that these kids want to come down from Canada and come to college hockey. And that says a lot about how far college hockey has come as a game in Canada. I mean, Pierre, I remember going up there and nobody knew anything about it. Nobody, who are these guys coming in the NHL from college hockey? We don't need them. Just take the junior players, and then they can't even compete. And now it's the script is flipped, and they're all going to work together, and I love it.
Yeah, well said by you, Jimmy. I totally agree. They are going to have to work together. They are going to have to work together. I can't wait to get to Ireland. You're going to really. So just so everybody understands, Notre Dame, who's playing tonight at Canton and tomorrow in Potsdam, they play St. Lawrence tonight, Clarkson tomorrow. So they're there. Merrimack College, Scotty Borik's the coach there. They're actually playing out at Minnesota State this weekend. Harvard, who's not playing this weekend, Teddy Donato, our good friend, he's the coach of that team. And Boston University, Jay Pandolfo. And you're going to have a chance to see up close and personal Cole Eiserman, and you're going to have a chance to see Cole Hudson.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to have a chance to see, and this is for Chicago Blackhawk fans, Ryan Green, who's there. He was a second-round pick of the Blackhawks. He's an NHL player. I personally think he could be playing in the league this year, but he's playing at BU. So you're going to have a chance to see all these guys practice and play, Jimmy. And I'll just tell you this. I won't tell the flight number, but we'll be flying with Boston University. You and I are in the same.
I wasn't sure if I was allowed to say that. That's all.
No, I'll say it. I don't care.
Yeah,
it's a fun.
I'm excited. Yeah, we'll get to hang with our good friend Jay Pandolfo. Really looking forward to that. He's one of my favorite people to deal with as a reporter.
Tremendous.
Really is. Well, listen, I know there was a lot of action last night, but you know what? We've got some questions lining up here, and I know everybody wants to do this. Is there anything that you wanted to get to from last night that we did?
Just one thing, and this is near and dear to my heart. Donnie Marshall, who was 92 years of age, passed away yesterday. And he was part of 5 Stanley Cups with the Montreal Canadiens. He played 19 years in the NHL, Jimmy. I knew him because in the summertime, back when I first started, I used to play in the Montreal Canadiens old-timers golf tournaments. And the Canadiens are so good, and their public outreach is so good. And there were a lot of different events that I'd go to. And one of his line mates was Phil Goyette. Another one of his line mates was Claude Provost. There are 12 men that won 5. That doesn't count Tom Blake, their coach, and it doesn't count their GM, Frank Selke Sr. But there were 12 men, and Donnie was one of them. And I remember he played with Toronto and the New York Rangers, too, after his time in Montreal. But Jimmy, could you imagine? He started playing hockey when he was 10 years old. You think a 10-year-old could do that today? No chance. No chance. And so one day, I remember Scotty and I we were in New York. We were just walking around. We had a couple days between games. I think we had played in New Jersey. We didn't want to fly back to Pittsburgh, so we were staying in Manhattan. And we gave the guys a day off. So he and I just were walking around Manhattan, like Central Park, just going for a walk. And he said, Pierre, one of the best athletes in the history of the city of Montreal is a guy that played for Montreal, played for Toronto, played for New York. And he grew up right down the street from me.
Wow.
And we're about the same age. And Scotty's 91 now. Donnie Marshall passed away at 92. It's Donnie Marshall. He said, Pierre, this guy was the most amazing athlete ever. So every time I had a chance to go to these golf events, I wanted to see if it was true or not, And he could, he was probably in his 70s then, maybe late 60s, early 70s. He could whack the ball. He was an amazing golfer, Jimmy. He was really good. But Scotty always told me, one of the best athletes ever out of Montreal was Donnie Marshall. And one of the other guys was his old teammate who was part of those 5 Stanley Cups, Doug Harvey. Both those guys, can you imagine? They had 2 of those guys. And most people who are historians of athletics, they would tell you probably 2 of the best athletes ever born in the city of Montreal.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Pierre, quick story. I know we're pressed for time. I actually met Doug Harvey's brother in the Green Spot restaurant. Yes. You know the restaurant I'm talking about in I think it's in NDG. It might be, or maybe St. Henry.
So the Doug Harvey Arena is in NDG.
Okay, so that's where it was.
Their sports shop, which was Harvey's Sports Shop, was on Queen Mary Road, just off of DeCary. So
yeah. And just the hockey stories I was hearing, just sitting there having a good poutine and listen to all these stories. It was amazing. So that's a tough loss for the game of hockey, and obviously the city of Montreal.
A life well lived.
Brought that up.
Stanley Cup champion, and his life should be celebrated. He was an amazing guy. At times I had a chance to meet him. All those guys, Phil Goyette, Jean-Guy Talbot. I'm just going off the top. Henri Richard, the late, Doug Harvey, Jean Belleville. Jean Belleville was on those teams. Like, you look at the guys who were Tommy Johnson. Remember we were talking about Tommy Johnson last night?
Yeah, we were.
On those teams. I mean, you look at all the players who were on those teams. It's amazing. I mean, Jimmy, one of the toughest guys I ever met in my life was Dickie Moore. I'm just telling you. And I had a chance at Dickie owns a golf course right near where I grew up in Mont-Tremblant, Quebec when I was a kid. And it was in Arundel, Quebec. It's still there. His family still owns it. Dickie Moore was the funniest guy. But if you ever got him mad, he could get angry in a hurry, Jimmy. I just look at all the characters on their teams. It's just amazing. Amazing, the men that were on those teams. Just amazing.
Yep, and you were right. It is in NDG there, so good call. the green spot. I love it. Still there. All right, before we get to our Q&A, we want to, of course, mention our great sponsor, Betway. And I hope everybody liked my pick of the night last year.
Jimmy. I was gonna pump it after you did this.
I know I know you were. I should let you do it, but hey, we were on. You were the one who fueled that, though, telling us about how they didn't go home after the game in Quebec against Boston, and how that could have an advantage against Buffalo, who's been through a lot in the last 10 days with their travel over to Europe. So I definitely think that's having an effect on the Sabres right now, and they need to get going. They really do. And I know they ran into a superstar performance from Anze Kopitar with the hat trick last night. Some great goaltending by Kemper, but they need to get going in a hurry here because it could get ugly fast there. But let's get to tonight and let's tell you about Betway right now. Let's pull that up right now. As you know, Betway is the leading global online betting and gaming brand. Follow your gut instinct. Go with Betway, and if you want, you can go right there and go to the SKU right there in front of you on there. If you're watching here on YouTube, or go to betway.com and sign up. And of course, you have to be 18 plus and play responsibly. Tonight, my Betway pick of the night, I want to go over to Winnipeg, where the Winnipeg Jets are hosting Connor Bedard and the Chicago Blackhawks. It's the Jets' home opener. And I'm looking at the first period, Pierre. I think there's going to be a lot of goals in this game, period, but the over-under is 6. The over-under in the first period is 1.5. I think they sort through that. Definitely going to be at least 2 goals to open the game in that first period. So that would be my Betway pick of the game, over 1.5 in the first period for the Chicago Blackhawks and Winnipeg Jets. All right, let's get to the Q&A. Alex Ivanovsky, how far away are Sebastian Cossa and Trey Augustine from making their NHL debut? I was just going to say, hopefully not too far away the way things looked last night. The Red Wings need help in goal. How far away are they?
Augustine's elite. There's a kid named Cam Whitehead at Northeastern who's a Vegas draft pick. There's obviously Jacob Fowler at Boston College. There's Trey Augustine at Michigan State. Those would probably be the top guys outside of the National Hockey League right now, outside of pro hockey, I should say. Trey's not that far away. I don't think he's that far away. Sebastian Cossa is very close. I don't think he's that far away. Saw him play a lot in the Western Hockey League with Edmonton. He's a good player. He's a legit. These are all legit NHL prospects that I don't think are that far away.
Good stuff. I want to let her give a shout out too. I just got a text from my good buddy Jeff, who I've told you about, lives up here in New Hampshire with me. He has said to let you guys know he's going to go to more women's hockey games now. He said that conversation got me very pumped up. I'm going to go over and check out some women's games.
You really should. And there's so many. Like, he's probably in New Hampshire, not far from Durham. They have a real good team.
We're like a half hour away.
Northeastern's got a real good team. BU's got a real good team. BC's really coming. Harvard's really working on rebuilding their team. I really like the coach at Brown, the women's coach at Brown. Yale's got a tremendous coach, Mark Bolding. He's really good, really, really good. So, I mean, there's so much. It's getting great. Exciting. It's really good.
It's right here in front of us, and it's affordable. It's easy access. We've got to go over there. We've got to check it out.
Yeah,
don't waste it. Yeah. All right, next question. A to Z me. Is there a Lane Hudson in women's college hockey? Someone flashy, skilled, and full of personality?
There are. And I don't want to just say one, but Sarah Fillier that Commissioner talked about, Commissioner Christiansen was spot on. She was a first pick in the draft in the PWHL. She's really good. I know a lot of – there's a young lady that plays at Clarkson. Her name is Haley Wynn. She's a defenseman. She can absolutely wire the puck, Jimmy. She's going to be in the Olympics. I mean, she's tremendous. She'll be a first round pick. She might be
American or Canadian?
She's American from Rochester, New York. She's very good. So that there are a lot of them. I don't want to get caught up in all the names because I know most of them, and I don't want anybody getting mad at me. But there are a lot of them. And I'll just give one more. Daniel Serdachny. She might have some of the best hockey since she left Colgate. She's in the PWHL. She will be this year. She has some of the best hockey sense I've ever seen. Doesn't matter if it's man or woman. She's got amazing hockey sense. So there are a lot of really good ones.
Good stuff. All right, next question. Randy Workman. According to Frank Saravelli, the New York Rangers are close to signing Alexis Lafreniere. 8 years, $8 million AAV. Is this a good contract or bad?
Good.
I think it's going to be good. Right around where I expect.
Our forwards starting to really feel it. He's a little bit older for his draft year, but he's starting to come now. He's a first-line player.
I'll just say on the Rangers, though, we all know that what's going on with Shesterkin.
Yep.
They got other guys too. I don't have time to get into it right now, but go to Puckpedia and check out their, the contracts that are coming up. They do that. Shesterkin. I don't know, Pierre. There's somebody's got to go to make room for all these contracts.
No, but this is why, so everybody understands. Jimmy and I have been saying this. This
Window's
is their last best chance to win.
Yeah.
If they don't win this year, that window's closing probably.
Yep.
We talked about this with Carolina last year.
Mm-hmm.
When they got Gensel, we said they're all in. Remember when they got Gensel, they're all in.
Yep. And then look how many people they had to lose. Yeah.
That's just the way it is. So the Rangers have gone all in. But here, this is just to be fair. Drury's in a tough spot there. You got Svechnikov's contract in Carolina. That's a little over 7.8 million, I think, a year. Then you got Kachuk's contract up in Ottawa. That's over 8 million. Then you got Stützle. That's closer to 10. So, you're looking at Stützle was 3 in the draft. Lafreniere was 1 in the draft. Did you follow me? Mm-hmm. So this is where the comparables kick in. So, yeah, it's a good contract. There's nowhere other direction they could go. They had to.
And there's a lot of reports, by the way, we never mentioned it, though, but it's good to know there's a lot of reports that things are not as bad as feared when it comes to Sasha Bakov, the captain of Florida Panthers, who was injured last night in an awkward-looking injury with Tim Stützle. Both guys looking all right out of that, so that's good news. All right, next question.
That was a tough situation. That was nothing dirty there.
Yeah.
That was bad luck.
No, you could see both players were upset that it happened. All right, next question. John Smith, how often does a team change its power play strategy? Some teams not enough. How many different looks will a team have? And are the video guys coming in with stuff after seeing video on upcoming opponents? Good weekend to you, John, as well.
John, all good points. There's lots of different power play strategies. If you're like, I'll give you an example. For years, the Washington Capitals were one of the top 3 teams in the power play. So they had John Carlson up high. Everything went through Nicky Backstrom stick. They had Oshie in the high slot, and they had Ovechkin available as a right-hand shot on the left-hand side of the ice. And Tommy Wilson would jam the net or whomever they wanted to put down there. So their power play was pretty simplistic. You had the big bomb from Carlson, you had the big bomb from obviously Ovechkin, or you had the skill and the grit of Oshie and the playmaking and the genius of Nick Backstrom. So their power play was different. It's like our power play in Pittsburgh. This is just to freak people out. Ronnie Francis was so good on faceoffs. We were one of the first teams to go 4 forwards, 1 D. So what happened is Ronnie would win the drawback. He'd go back on defense. He'd win it back to Murphy or Coffey. One or the other there'd only be one of them on. And then we'd have Lemieux, we'd have Stevens, and we'd have Mullen. And Francis would take the draw and then go back on defense. So there are lots of different scenarios. But you have to have the players to be able to do that. One of the best run power plays I ever saw. I'm going to give John Tortorella a lot of credit. He was in Buffalo working for the late John McGuire. I was coaching against them back in the early 90s, excuse me. And they had LaFontaine. They had Howard Chuck. They had Bodger. They had a lot of good stuff there. McGillney and their power play. But John gave them 3 or 4 different sequences they could run off of. And they practiced those 3 or 4, and it was like clockwork. So even if you knew what they were doing, you couldn't stop them.
How about Scotty's power?
The one year I think that power play was 4th or 5th in the league, but it should have been a lot higher.
How about Scotty's power plays in Detroit?
Forget it. What about his power plays in Montreal?
Woo!
Easy. Come on.
All right, next question. Randy Workman, this season has been crazy with all the offense. Are you guys expecting to slow down, or are we returning to 80s hockey? Randy, you know what? I'm glad you brought that up. I've noticed that, and that's been kind of churning in the back of my head too. But I also thought about it. It's like we've seen this script before over the last few years sometimes. I think last year actually it went the other way, where it was really low scoring. Then it got higher scoring. But we've seen it a lot lately. Come back to me at Thanksgiving, because I think sometimes it's just teams are getting used to things. You're going to see a lot more mistakes this early on here right now. So I think that's leading to more goals. But let's see where they're at Thanksgiving, American Thanksgiving it is. And by the way, happy Thanksgiving to our Canadian friends. Happy Thanksgiving weekend up there.
There
And
you
just so you know, you can sit and you can enjoy your turkey dinner or whatever you do up there in Canada for Thanksgiving, and you'll be able to still watch Pierre and I live at 4:00 on Monday.
So I will agree with everything Jimmy said. The one thing I would add, I think for the first time in a while, the offense has an advantage over the defense.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't said that in a long time, but it's really apparent that they do.
Yeah.
So, again, it's just one of those trends. It's a trend that's out there. We've talked about, the depth offense that's coming from a lot of these teams. I think players are just getting better.
Yeah.
Depth players are just getting better, and the defense hasn't been able to keep up.
Yep. And there's more offense coming from the defense, from the blue line.
And by the way, you said whatever you guys do up in Canada when I was a kid, you know what my father used to do with my two brothers and I?
What?
Take us moose hunting.
Really?
Yeah, we used to
Wow.
go moose hunting. Yeah.
This up north?
Way up.
In Trumbull? Yeah.
Further
Nice.
than that, we were way up.
Wow.
We used to go to a place called the Balsam Lake Fishing and Hunting Club. It was way up. It was just past North Bay, Ontario.
I've never had moose, Pierre. Is it good?
Oh, it's good. It's really good.
Nice.
It's excellent.
I'll try it someday. Good stuff. All right. Next question. Vincent Yoel. Hello, gentlemen. Question for Jimmy. Are you going to use this weekend as an excuse to Vincent, you must be a mind reader. I was literally just going to say that. Excuse to celebrate Thanksgiving and have some good food. You deserve it, buddy. Thank you. You know what, Vincent? Ever since I lived in Montreal, I was there from 2012 to 2014. I celebrate both. I try. Some years I miss it on this weekend, but I went down. I'm going to have a little turkey and stuffing and cranberry sauce. I'm going to do the same thing in Belfast when I'm with Pierre there for the Friendship 4. So yes, I'm getting a double whammy for sure. I can't wait.
Oh, that's good.
All right, next question. Mind reader Vincent is. Groke 2.0. Question, how much time do the Habs give Primo before they send him back to Laval?
Well, here's the one thing you got to understand. He requires waivers.
That's what I was going to say. Yep.
So, be careful what you wish for. Now, can Dobish come up and play? Based on what we saw in the preseason, he can.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't know if that team's a team that's got a legitimate chance to be a playoff team. I think it's really important. Yeah, I think it's really important that they get that solidified as quickly as possible because they're going to turn some guys pro at the end of the year. And so you want those guys playing games. You don't want to just come up for a couple weekends and then it's over.
So if it got to a point, Pierre, where maybe they said, look, it's just not working with Primo, do you think maybe they would in turn look outside externally for a backup?
They might. I mean, they had a pretty good one, Jake Allen.
Yeah, he was a good guy in the locker room too. All right, next question. Matthew Cesar. Pierre, I think Shesterkin is the best goalie in the league, but paying him $11 million would be a colossal mistake. Too much money for a position that is so unpredictable. I think Pierre agrees with you 100%.
Matthew, you and I are right on the same page, except for I would just say this.
Passer. Okay, no problem, man.
I would just say this. I think he's right up in the top 3. That's pretty big.
Mm-hmm.
And anything over $11 million would be tough for a goalie. Because as I said to Jimmy, what happens if the Rangers go all in this year and the team doesn't win, and then you have him signed and they're starting another retool? They won't have to rebuild, but they'll be retooling.
Yes, because of the
you got to think about that.
Mm-hmm. We will see what happens. All right, we got 2 more questions. What do we got? Matthew Kazar. There we go. I hope I got it right there. Question for Pierre and Jimmy. If you were a hockey player, which number would you wear? Well, my number in any sport I play was usually 7. I love 7, but when it's always taken. So I guess I'd go Ray Bourque style. I'll try for 77.
Every number I ever wore in hockey was 19, and I wore 19 because of Larry Robinson.
There you go. I like 19 as well. And that would honor Stevie Y, one of my favorite players growing up. That's a great question.
If you're a kid growing up in Montreal, that Robinson guy, he was a pretty powerful guy.
Oh, yeah. I was there when they retired his number, Pierre. That's when I learned how much he meant to that city. Wow.
Special.
Next question. Matthew's ripping the questions here. All right. Matthew again. Pierre, what was your favorite Halloween costume when you were a kid?
You know, I know people are going to think that my parents were mean, but they weren't. I don't think we really ever got Halloween. I think we had to make them. So I think once I went out as like I don't even think they were called Navy SEALs then, but I went out like as a combat guy with like, you know, the camouflage and a French beret, you know what I mean? And like a camo coat. So
yeah, definitely did that a couple times. Yeah.
You know, but I don't remember I don't think we did that. Maybe my sister did, but I don't remember that.
I don't know about when I was a kid, but you know, when my daughter was born and when she got old enough to go out for Halloween and understand what it was, I found a Chiquita banana costume and she loved it. But now, you know, I'll go to her and say, okay, so I'm going to put no, you're not. You're not embarrassed. No, that's the end of that. So I don't know. I'll have to get something else. We'll see. But that's coming right up, actually, Halloween. Jesus, only a few weeks away. But listen, again, happy Thanksgiving weekend to all our Canadian listeners and viewers. And, of course, to our staff, to you, Pierre, as well, and your family. And, of course, thank you to Doug Christiansen, the commissioner of the ECAC. That was a great interview.
It was so good.
Really,
thank you, Doug.
Love his vision. Love where that's going right now. And I'll definitely take him up on the offers to get some tips for Belfast. So we will do that before we can't wait to go. Pierre, it's we got our travel details today. I mean, it's real. It's getting real now. So I'm looking forward.
Always real. It's just I wasn't sure if we were going to allow you to go. We had to make sure you had a passport.
Did you grease the border patrol already or what? No.
We're good. All good. Murphy gets in. Welcome. Murphy.
Thanks to Shane working the boards up in Montreal, and to all of you for watching and listening. And enjoy the hockey this weekend. Some great games on. We'll talk about all of that on Monday, and then we'll look ahead to the next week after that. So this has been another edition of the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.